When a 14-year-old boy driving a carload of mostly teenagers was shot by police at 4 a.m. in King's Cross last Saturday, it didn't take long before the blame game began. Why was he there? And who is responsible? The incident dominated the airwaves this week, but in the suburbs that are home to many of this city's troubled children, there were no easy answers. In Sydney's outer western suburbs, many young people are growing up in impoverished and isolated communities with no role models, no expectations and destined for a life of trouble. With the New South Wales Government about to consider reform of the state's bail laws, including those affecting juveniles, opinions and warnings on how to handle young offenders are coming thick and fast. Tracy Bowden reports.
Images captured on mobile phones in the early hours of Saturday morning told a frightening story and sparked a heated debate.
I would tend to call, right, for charges to be laid on that policeman. He's got to be answerable, he's got to be charged.
A lot of the people who are now making comment about what should or should not have happened and what the police should or should not have done weren't there. They weren't part of it.
But they also raised some difficult questions.
I, as a parent, know where my 14-year-old is. Before we seek to blame police, we'll look at ourselves.
We need to look at how we're going to support these people. It is happening, but judgment and blame isn't going to get us anywhere.
All but one of the 6 occupants of the car that mounted the footpath running down a pedestrian were under 18. The 14-year-old driver from Mount Druitt in Sydney's west was known to police.
They've been out of control for a long time, it seems. I think one was 500 charges.
For these young people, they're not often at school, so they're wandering around during the day. The day's not stimulating for them because there's not a lot of resources or activities for them to do. So they become completely disengaged from the community around them, from their families, from their schools, and they're living in a peer group that's operating often under drugs and alcohol and often just at night time.
In the Blacktown office of Marist Youth Care, news of what happened in King's Cross on the weekend came as no surprise.
Well, it wasn't a shock to me because I work with these kind of young people on a daily basis, so it's shocking that the age of the young people in the car, yeah, very shocking. But my first reaction was I probably know the young person or know the family.
Just run a barbecue, start engaging that way.
Lisa Graham and her colleague JOANNE Rudd work with disadvantaged young people. Many of their clients are Aboriginal. Their lives follow a sad pattern, often involving crime.
They're suffering often from homelessness, so often they're couch surfing and they don't have any stability in their lives, so they haven't got a really good, strong role model, and also they haven't got one person watching their growth.
A lot of Aboriginal kids, they'll tend to hang around with their relatives, their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, who have all... You'll find in an Aboriginal family you'll have a lot of siblings, mum, dad, might have been involved with the criminal system as well. So that can tend to be their sort of way of life.
No one is interested when it comes to anything with our kids until they do something wrong, and then we tend to really attack them aggressively, but we don't set up infrastructure and programs that are effective and can turn around criminal activity. One of those presentations is looking at a related text.
Father Chris Riley, who runs the charity Youth Off the Streets, is today helping a group of students prepare for their HSC at a special school run by his organisation in Marylands. These young people all have troubled backgrounds, but education is helping them find a better future. Father Riley wishes help had come sooner for the teenagers in that car in King's Cross.
I would have loved to have got them on their first offence. I would have loved someone to have got to them on their first offence. and that pathway could have been changed if the right program had been up and running.
So do we have to accept that those particular children are now locked into a life of crime?
No, if you operate good programs inside those facilities, you can actually get good results from them too. An intensive program that targets their offending behaviour, not just the general criminal activity, but targeting them.
The King's Cross incident and the strong public response come at a time when the New South Wales government is reassessing bail laws. Among its recommendations, changes to the bail laws for juveniles, in particular the imposition of unrealistic bail conditions.
Things such as having to live at a particular house or adhering to a curfew are a lot harder for some young people, particularly if they come from a broken home.
Greg Smith says that while some young people belong in juvenile detention, under the current system, 4 out of 5 youngsters held on remand will never go on to receive a custodial sentence.
And a lot of them are going into custody for relatively minor offences that don't carry a jail sentence. And so that, to me, that's stark evidence of the misuse of refusal of bail. I think particularly in the case of young people, being housed in a detention centre with hardened juvenile delinquents can have a great corrupting influence. And I think that's shown by the high recidivism or reoffending rates of young people when compared to adults.
But the events of last weekend mean any perception that the government is going soft on crime will make the review of the bail laws that much harder.
Can you give the people of New South Wales a guarantee that your weak-kneed, Labor-like Attorney-General, the worst Attorney-General since Frank Walker, who was a Labor Attorney-General, won't get his way in relation to bail laws to make them less restrictive than they currently are?
Well, Ray, I'll say to you what I said last time. I do not believe that any proposals to weaken bail laws will get through the Cabinet.
I'm not going soft at all. I'm tough and determined to help achieve some decent changes in our criminal justice system.
The radio commentator Ray Hadley in particular has had you in his sights. How much of a concern is that?
I don't see my role as just to please Ray Hadley or any other shock jock. My role is to do the best that the government can, or help the government do the best for the community generally. We
need politicians who will say, I believe in this, and if it gets me unelected in 3 years' time, so be it. But I'm committed to this, and I can't be hit over the head to conform when I know it doesn't work.
The team at Marist Youth says that while the problems in Sydney's West are enormous, improvements are possible. Programs to reach children before they get into trouble do exist, but long-term funding and more of it is needed.
Some of the areas that we work in are so needy, so critically needy, that we need, as I said before, we need really big government funding in there, because we just can't, while we can supply some of the money, we can't do the things that need to be done to make change long term.
You know, I'm working with these kids every day, and sometimes it breaks your heart to think how they're living, and you think, how can I help this child? Because, you know, 10, 11-year-olds, you don't want them coming at the 16 and they're still involved with the criminal system and they've got no education. What kind of future are they going to have?
Tracy Bowden reporting.